There we go. All right, we are live for our 3 o'clock live stream from Fort Humboldt State Historic Park. This is in Eureka. I'm going to give a little minute for people to join us and let you enjoy the view in the meantime. Yes, we're out in the parking lot. This is our district office. But there is something happening underneath this tree that I would like to share with you all today. So I'm just going to wait for our first couple of people to join on. If you can hear and see okay, go ahead and leave me a like or a comment. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know that you can see. Let me know that you can hear. It's an absolutely beautiful day out here on the bluff at Fort Humboldt. And we're going to be talking about something we found underneath this tree right here in just a moment. All right, it does look like we have our first couple of people joining on, so before we get started, I just want to say hello. My name is Kyle. I'm a park interpretive specialist for California State Parks up in the North Coast Redwoods district. We're doing these live streams every day at 3 o'clock, and today I'm coming at you from Fort Humboldt State Historic Park in Eureka. I just want to acknowledge before we go that this is ancestral Wiyot land that we're on today. Without further ado, I do also want to recognize that so many of you are doing your part to shelter in place right now and stay home during COVID-19. We really appreciate that. We're doing these live streams every day to just try and bring a little piece of the park to you. Our mission is to provide for the health, inspiration, and education of the public. So trying to improve your health a little bit, give you a little look into these outdoor spaces, inspire you with maybe some new places to check out and some new things to see, and maybe we'll educate you a little bit along the way as well. So today we're going to be talking about something we found underneath this tree right here. And we'll take a look down here in the dirt and see if it catches your eye as well. So a lot of times you can take a look underneath the tree to find out if there's things living there. And probably one of the most common things that we see underneath the trees are scat or poop. If you have birds living in a tree, you'll probably find a good healthy heap of poop underneath the tree. However, that's not what we found here. Instead, we found something called a pellet. If you look right here, you can actually see 2 rodent skulls sitting right next to each other right there. Ah, there we go. I've got some comments coming in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I don't know why those took so long to pop up. So I see Bud, Melody, thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for your response. Great to hear from you. Great to see that you're watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. So again, we have 2 tiny little skulls right here that we found underneath this tree. We also found a number of pellets, which look just like this. I've already put this on a paper plate because we're going to do a dissection for you live today. So we're going to pull this pellet apart and see what these animals might be eating. But first, let's talk about how does this pellet get formed. So owls, just like us, can't digest the fur or the bones of the animals that they're eating, and predominantly they eat different types of rodents. So when they eat one of these animals, they eat the whole thing. They stick the whole thing in their mouth. But just like us, they can't digest the fur or the bones. So instead of picking it apart beforehand, they eat the whole thing, and they have a special organ called a gizzard that breaks apart what they can digest and what they can't, and it packs all the non-digestive materials into this really handy little thing we call an owl pellet. And they throw this up. So after they're done, they've got all the nutrients they need picked out of what they're eating, and they just go ahead and throw up one of these pellets. So if you have an owl living in a tree near you, you'll find little skulls like this or little pellets all packaged up with different bones inside, and you can pick those apart to find out what the owls are eating. Now, it is important that you either wear gloves or wash your hands after doing this. You can also bake the pellets beforehand to sterilize them, but you never know necessarily between rodents and birds if there's any diseases or things like that. So I don't have gloves today, so I will be washing my hands immediately afterwards. So I'm going to walk this over to a table real quick, provide you with some views, and then we'll start picking it apart and see what we can find in here. And as always, if you guys have any questions about anything we're talking about today or what we're looking at, go ahead and leave a comment down there and I will happily answer them. And if I'm not answering them live, I'll come back around and answer them after we finish. Glad I'm not an owl, says Sandra. I love it. Are there babies living above? We believe there was a nest up there at one point. It doesn't seem like it's as active now. There was one point where I was walking into work. That is my office right over there. So I walk down that pathway when I come into work. And there were, 3 or 4 pellets every day on that walkway. So for a while, that was a really active tree. It doesn't seem like it is as much anymore. One of our natural resource specialists told me that he thinks that there were babies living up there, at least for a little while. So here's our little bench, just so I can take a seat, make this a little bit easier. And pass this over. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, so come over here. So I got a toothpick, and I've got our
shadow.
Got it. We'll go. I'll hop over to the other side. That'll be better. Okay. So this one's a little bit older, so it's already started to fall apart a little bit. Sometimes they're clumped up really tight, and already something that fell out was this nice rodent skull. And we'll probably come across, look, right here already. I see this is a lower jaw. So there's two different, we've got an upper rodent skull here, relatively small. And then we've got a part of a lower jaw right here. Just clean some of this off here. So you see, mostly what we see in these pellets is a lot of fur and a lot of bones. Those are the things that the owls can't digest. Just like we can't digest that stuff, but unlike us, they don't have fancy forks and knives, so their stomach does it for them. So we've got a little piece of a lower jaw here. You can see the tiny little teeth on the inside, and then the thing that makes a rodent is those big sharp teeth on the front. Here's also a really cool trick with rodents. I'll try it on this little jaw, but it might work better on some of the bigger ones. Is a rodent's teeth grow their entire life. So you see their teeth that they're using here, but they've got a lot of extra teeth ready to go if they ever need it. Their teeth grow out their entire lifetime, and as they chew, it files down their teeth to keep them sharp the whole time. So as they grow, their teeth, well, look, we got a pill bug just ran out of our pellet there. Their teeth keep growing, and they keep growing. And let's see, this one doesn't seem like they're super long, but look at all that tooth he had ready to go in there. A whole lot of backup tooth just in case. Let's see what else we can find in this pellet here. Got a lot of leg bones, it looks like, right back here. Some femurs. Some hip bones there. You can as well online, they have rodent bone charts, so you can actually put back together an entire rodent skeleton out of an owl pellet if you are so inclined. We're not going to put back together the entire skeleton today. Just wanted to show you some of the things that you can find in here. Got another upper jaw of a rodent here. This is a bigger one. This is probably what those lower jaws, those larger lower jaws belong to. So let's see the teeth on this one. Keep growing and growing and growing. And wow, this one does have some good long chompers. There we go. Check out all that extra tooth that this rodent had ready to go. They could keep filing down as he was eating, or she was eating, and growing their entire life. So the really cool thing about pellets is this gives us a little bit of a clue about our environment without ever seeing it. So a lot of animals don't necessarily like to be seen by humans. Owls being nocturnal, we don't necessarily see them all the time. But being able to look beneath a tree and find these pellets is a great indicator that there is an owl living in that tree. So even if you can't see it all the time, and again, I haven't seen, ooh, we got a nice vertebrae right here. You see that? So even if you don't ever get a chance to see the owl living in the tree, seeing a pellet underneath is a great way to tell that there is something living there. And you can even tell a whole lot about the organism, like what it's eating, if it has a healthy diet. And these kind of clues left behind by animals can tell us all kinds of things about them. There's another jaw in there. Another lower jaw.
How many meals make a pellet?
I believe it depends on the size of the meals. It's more about a capacity for the gizzard getting too full of food and materials. So it's not necessarily how many meals, but for this one in particular, we're seeing, it looks like at least 3 or 4 skulls in here. So there was a number of rodents were eaten and compacted into this one pellet.
How much do owls eat compared to their size?
That is a great question. I know owls don't need a whole lot to eat. I'm not 100% sure like how much in a night an owl would need to eat. I'll do a little bit more research and come back to that question. Thank you very much. And thanks for reading them, Skip. I appreciate it.
How often do they eat?
Again, I'm not sure exactly how frequently they eat or how much. I'll do a little bit more research and get back to you guys on what a night consists of for an owl. I know that they are very successful predators and that they are almost completely silent flyers. They have feathers in their wings, special feathers that help dampen the sound. And so they can fly almost silently. One of my favorite stories about this, one of my old bosses, was standing out in a field talking to a coworker, and an owl flew right over his head, so close that it almost hit him. Could have grabbed some hairs off the top of his head. And he didn't even know it had happened until his coworker, who was standing next to him, saw the owl fly over and yelled and made a big hullabaloo about it. But he didn't even know that the owl had flown over his head, and it almost hit him. It was so close. But they're just that silent of a flyer that you can't hear them. So that's one of the ways that they are very successful hunters, is that they're so quiet that their prey can't necessarily hear them coming.
We have another question from Brad. If a pellet is found in the state park by the public, are we allowed to dissect?
That is a really great question. I will do a little bit more research. We do discourage collecting in parks, so if you do find a pellet, we don't want you to take it home. It is best to leave stuff where you found it. I'll do a little bit of research though. You are able to at least look at it visually. I'll figure out if you would be able to dissect it or pull it apart at all. Again, whenever you are handling these pellets, it's really important to wash your hands after or wear gloves, which I am not setting a very good example of.
Bud says, I have a strong urge to go wash my hands.
Me too, bud. I will be washing my hands as soon as this is done. But just wanted to show you guys, I mean, here I found another really big lower jawbone here. Let's try. So we saw that their upper teeth are constantly growing, but that's also true of their lower teeth. Look at how much lower tooth this rodent, woohoo, there it is. How much tooth this rodent still had ready to go. Pretty incredible. So animals leave these clues around from the places they are. It's their scat, these pellets, all kinds of clues are left behind, nests from animals that even if we're not seeing them, you can use those clues to determine what's living in an area and maybe some things about their behavior. So next time you're outside, maybe even in just your backyard, check around your tree, see if you might find some pellets or some scat, poop, any other signs that might be telling you that there's animals coming around that you might not be seeing. That's going to be it for me today, though. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Again, if you have any more questions, I'm really happy to come back around and answer them. Tune in every day at 3 o'clock. We're doing these every single day, all kinds of different parks, tons of great stuff to learn from all of our different interpreters. Thank you guys all so much for showing up and your continued support with each of these. Any more questions on there, Skip, so far?
How many kinds of owls are there in the Redwoods?
How many different species there are, I'm not 100% sure. I know one of the main species that is talked about a lot is the northern spotted owl. That is an endangered species that lives in the Redwoods. It kind of got a lot of attention right around the time of DDT and a lot of people logging and deforesting. It has a limited range of habitat, but also DDT, the pesticide, was really heavily impacting its eggs because it's eating rodents, which the pesticides were attacking. So that's one species I know that is protected within the Redwood Forest and is also just a really cool looking owl. And there are plenty of other species. I'll do a little bit more research and see if I can get you an estimate of about how many species. But I know the northern spotted owl is kind of a champion or mascot of the Redwoods. Mm-hmm. Any other questions on there?
How big of an owl do you think this pellet cake came from?
This was a pretty big pellet. I'm not 100% sure. This is one of the bigger ones that I've seen. I know barn owls are a really common owl around, even in kind of suburban areas. We're right by neighborhoods here in Fort Humboldt, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a barn owl. But this is a relatively large pellet compared to what some of the other pellets I've seen from barn owls. Usually they're about the size, say, of like a toddler's fist, and this one was the size of a small kid's fist. So this was a relatively large pellet compared to what I'm used to. Any other questions on there? Okay. Well, I will come back around and answer, give you guys some more answers on those questions, but I really appreciate all your questions. Really appreciate you guys all tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you again on one of these live streams very soon. Talk to you later.